During this webinar, we will dive into the world of security testing, exploring best practices and the latest trends. Our agenda today includes an in-depth presentation by our esteemed speakers, followed by question and answer session to address any questions or concerns you may have. We encourage active participation and interaction throughout the session. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's session, Mr. Jaya Polumuru. He's the founder, CEO, cum CTO of iCompaas. He brings an impressive track record as a passionate product builder. Mr. Polumuru has spent 2 decades creating innovative and scalable products for both B2B and B2C markets. Sir, we express our gratitude for graciously accepting our invitation for today's Pro Talk. So please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Jaya Polumuru. Thank you, sir. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Siddhant. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Thanks for MOHS10 for actually inviting me to speak here. And I'm definitely passionate about security. So, and again, security testing is something that we obviously want you to incorporate as part of your SDLC. And again, today's talk, we will definitely dive into some of those details that we like to share that we have been seeing that helps companies become more successful and more secure and overall do the right thing for their own customers. So yeah, absolutely. Let me think. Once I'm able to share my screen, I'm gonna share the screen here for my presentation. Siddhant, can you? I'm still not able to share my screen.
No, sir, you are not visible. Your screen is not visible, right? Can you check it once?
No, I'm not able to share my screen. So screen share is disabled. So can you?
Sure. Just let me. Now you can share your screen, sir. Just check now. You can.
Yeah, I should be able to. Just give me 1 second. Let me know once you are able to see my screen.
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this particular presentation, obviously, we're doing it along with MOHS10, and given that the company is really into software testing, we are taking that approach to our presentation today. So I'm gonna begin. So what is software testing? This is an area that has kind of evolved a lot, and the complexity has only risen mainly because we are producing more and more code today. And the automation of it, when you think of how you are testing your web application externally as well as internally, you're thinking of unit tests and other methodologies. But there is also this aspect of security that is really critical, and not everyone is paying attention. And this is where, obviously this talk is going to be kind of focused on, is to emphasize the need for having security as part of your development process and shift left, as it were, right? Like make sure that you are thinking about it as part of your development, not after. And as part of that, we will be diving into OWASP a little bit, penetration testing, and other kinds of practices that can be used as part of your security testing. So the role here is if you think of building any kind of product, if you don't have this mechanism to make sure that you're testing your security of your system, you're gonna reveal flaws and vulnerabilities. You'll not be able to actually kind of ensure that your app that you want to have more and more people use, is it actually vulnerable or not? You won't be able to know that. So the problem is not just about doing the security work and fixing it, is actually becoming aware. And in order to become aware, you need to have the right kind of vulnerability scanning stuff in place, security auditing, doing penetration testing, all these type of things that you'll have to be doing as part of your overall development process, as well as how you push things to production. That's how you'll make sure that you're maintaining and understanding the system functionality, and not exploiting and not exposing any of your app for malicious attacks. So you need to be careful with that. What the key things that you can think of in terms of analysis of your code or your process would be the static analysis and dynamic analysis. The static one is a focus on white box testing. This is, it's trying to figure out what's wrong in the code without actually executing it. So that's the static part of it, because there are several tools out there that help you. There are open source tools as well as proprietary tools that help you run static code analysis. And also another thing that has become a major issue is your libraries, right? You never think, when you're thinking of testing, you're not thinking about libraries as part of your, how your security, or even like the mindset of someone to like build an app. Inherently, you're using a lot of libraries. So there has been a lot of third-party supply chain attacks that are happening, and that is because of insecure libraries that you're using. So either you're on a version of library that is old and you should not be using it, or you're using a malicious library, because sometimes you might have misspelled the library name and you pick a library that is actually intended for you to pick, so they can actually start attacking from inside your code. So static code analysis is a really, really key component there. And when it comes to dynamic analysis, it's more about, if you think of it as a black box, you don't know what's in the code or how it runs. You just, on the environment, you are trying out different methodologies to figure out if I can get in, or if I can expose a flaw. So that's the dynamic analysis part of it. So what is OWASP? It's a open source, basically open web application security project is OWASP. You guys must have heard about this. It's a non-profit project. It's dedicated to improving software security. So the open source side of things, as you might know, has been a really good catalyst for us to become more secure, as well as ensure that community is helping out whenever these type of attacks are happening. There are what you call white hat hackers, or people who are interested in protection rather than attack. So they help improve the tool set, and the OWASP is an initiative that is kind of in that realm of ensuring that your app is secure, and it actually, there's an OWASP top 10 list, but there is like a lot more to that. There are a lot of details in there, a lot of different attacks that can be done, that it exposes, so that you can actually run this tool against yourself. Even iCompaas offers a web app scanner. There are many other companies who are offering this, but key thing is we do a full vulnerability assessment penetration testing. That's part of the OWASP, is part of that, because that is how we expose what is wrong with the application. This is kind of run on the black box side mostly. And it also, there is a application security verification standard as well. So the ASVS, that it's pretty much a testing guide. This is a community-driven project as well. It's a framework for security requirements. So this concept of OWASP and like understanding what it is and making sure that you're implementing the right things as part of your SDLC is very, very critical, because again, these are all open source and freely available, and we should all be paying attention to that as part of your, dev cycle. So I think compliance monitoring is one thing I wanted to cover. This is what we are very passionate about. We as a company, iCompaas, we started as a compliance automation company, and we are doing like cybersecurity strategy automation now. But compliance monitoring for a lot of companies, for example, if you're doing fintech, some sort of fintech and connecting with banks, if you're a healthcare data service that is running a lot of machine learning algorithms, or doing a lot of processing of healthcare data, which has personal information or patient sensitive information, or there are a variety of standards like SOC 1, SOC 2, ISO 2701, HIPAA. And if you are operating, like, if your company is operating in Europe as well, where European citizens are using your product, even if they're not in Europe, even if they're in US or India, if they're using your product, you are supposed to be GDPR compliant. So there are a lot of these compliance stuff as well that you should be integrating. And again, remember, we want a push model, you don't want a pull model. Like, if you have to remember to do this, then there is a chance of you forgetting. And that's why having the monitoring in place, having something that's going to remind you, having something that's going to tell you if something is going wrong, so that is very, very critical. And having that type of system set up is key for you to, like, again, be compliant if that is part of your requirement. So again, from a testing strategy standpoint, this should be in there. So I'm showing you how we do it on our side for compliance. So there are a lot of the security scanning tools, and the identifying of vulnerabilities in an efficient and effective way is really critical. So a lot of people do manual methods, which is fine. Manual has its place. Not everything can be automated, or maybe not all levels of automation are needed or appropriate for an organization, given the bandwidth constraints. And you have obviously you need focus on the business side of things. You're not going to be able to do everything within the team, right? And it is really important that you take on the right amount of work from an automation standpoint and leverage that, because nowadays, especially, and again, I don't want to talk about ChatGPT too much here, but ChatGPT lets you do some things. Let's say 70% of the work it'll do for you if it's some simple task, right? It's coding task, right? So maybe utilizing that or ensuring that you have an eye on automation. If you're repeating a task manually over and over again, maybe it's time to automate that piece of task. If it is again, recurring enough, that will help your team. Because, if you think of all of the things that are involved, your infrastructure, your code, your third-party libraries, your vendors, there are so many aspects that if you keep doing everything manually, it will get out of hand very, very quickly, and you will not be able to actually, get handle on things, and you might waste a lot of time doing that aspect rather than, focusing on your business, trying to grow your business, trying to make sure that, you're listening to your customers and that sort of thing. It will be hard for you to manage that if you're not, leveraging automation, basically. That's what it is. So as part of that, penetration testing is very, very important part of your life cycle. So as part of your SDLC, And I'll talk about CI/CD in a bit, but as part of your SDLC, if you're not doing penetration testing on a regular basis, there is a very good chance that you have exposed yourself, to some issues over a period of time. You won't even know it. Because, by the way, like if you use the right kind of tool, as I said, like iCompaas does offer a penetration testing suite as well. If you use the right kind of tool, you keep updating it to add new attacks, because security is a moving target, unfortunately. Like not something that you can keep up. If you can't just have a very good product right now and assume that that's going to work for next 2 years in the future. It will actually need to be updated. It will constantly need to be, keeping up with all the new attacks that are coming up. So it is really critical that you take a proactive approach. So what would a attacker do? So penetration testing is an approach where you are assuming the role of an attacker. So this is where actually there's a concept of a red team, blue team. So, and I can explain that for a little bit as well. So that's also part of the proactive approach for strategy for security, which is you are forming a team. The red team is the hacker team, meaning they will act like they're actually how a hacker would act. So they will not have insider information because these guys are not, part of your team. So what they will do is they will try to extract information from outside sources. Your DNS is a really good source of information. It will list out where you are hosting things, and there's also a lot of gaps. There might be a lot of gaps in your DNS. So they will figure that out. So there's a lot of phishing attacks that happen. They can start utilizing your domain like their own domain in an email, because you did not put in the right DNS entries to prevent that. So email spoofing happens because you're not doing the right things on the DNS side. So DNS is a very good source of thing there. So there's another thing is there are companies out there that are tracking you. As soon as you make a website live, they're tracking everything about you. They're tracking where you hosted, if you put any JavaScript in there, everything like that. They're tracking the technologies that you're using, from CRM to the marketing tools to any other thing that you're embedding as part of your website. They're tracking it all the time. And they'll tell you when you added and when you remove the technology as well. So there are companies like that who do all that. So for a hacker, they can go to that website and figure out what you have been using. Again, that gives them a good idea. Maybe you're using an older version of jQuery that is vulnerable. Maybe some JavaScript code, or maybe some server-side technology that you've exposed without knowing, and that is older version. A lot of data breaches happen that way, right? And the reason why you have to be proactive is because a lot of times people already have a data breach and they don't know it, and they take a lot of time to even figure that out. So that's why penetration testing, coming back to this point of why this is critical and why do you need a proactive strategy. The red team will act like hackers. They'll try to penetrate into a system, and there is something called a blue team, which is a defensive team, which is trying to first figure out if someone came in, someone was able to penetrate, and then what did they try to take and what did they try to read. So if you have all the right stuff in place, meaning how are you able to detect, and how are you able to defend yourself? Meaning, if they got into a system, can you shut it down? Can you remove it from the network? Again, if you're using cloud, even there, you're able to shut it down or remove that network from your VPC and things like that. So you can do a lot of things. But again, this is something that you do through practice. And you need a certain amount of training and skill to be able to do that. So patch management, I kind of stated that a little bit before. This is so critical because let's say there are different ways to look at this. So the older viewpoint was when you had servers, you would have an Apache version or a Linux version or the libraries that you're using in those servers. you have all that, and you need to make sure that you're patching them, right? You're patching them manually. This is a very slow process because let's say you have 1,000 servers. How are you going to patch all of them? How are you going to deploy all of that stuff? So then Amazon came up with some smart ideas like golden image. So you can create a golden image. You can keep creating a new image, just patched. And then you can have, without doing a lot of interruption, reboot systems like only certain systems first, take them off the network first, reboot them with the new version of the operating system. Everything else should come into play, and then put them into network, and then take off the rest of them. So you drain the traffic, and then do all of that without, so there is no interruption, but you're patching all the time. So having an effective patch management strategy is very critical. It depends on what you guys are doing. Let's say even the serverless side of things, right? So if you're using a serverless thing like Lambda in AWS, let's say you're using a version of Python that is old and is vulnerable. So that needs to be patched as well. That needs to be updated as well. So any aspects that you take, you have, even if you're doing Docker images, you're using libraries in there, you're using a version of Docker in there, or any kind of frameworks that is on top of the Docker image that you're using. All those things have to be patched. All those things have to be constantly updated and pushed. And that is, again, that's a critical part of how you do operations for your company. So then the other aspect is no one can reach a level of sophistication in their security on day one. Even if you have the most amount of money you can throw at it, as a number of people you can throw at it, it doesn't mean that you're going to become secure the first day. It is a continuous process, and it is a strategy where you are going upwards. You are increasing your level of security on a day-to-day basis. And you first take the low-hanging fruit, fix those first quickly, and then take on an approach. And this is a culture and a mindset that you have to have, all your developers, your operations people, as well as the business folk, because the phishing attacks that happen, right? A lot of them are targeted towards the business folks because unfortunately they are not as technical. So there is a chance that they might click on a link that could compromise the whole system. And again, it still requires some other systems to be weak for the compromise to happen, but still you're giving them an entry point. So your email, your SMS, all these are very, very critical attack surfaces and entry points. And in order for you to understand and quantify, it is very important that you have a good strategy in place, and you have the right kind of tools in place, and you have someone on the security side who has the understanding of, okay, guys, you're using all these CRMs, we're using all these vendors for marketing, we are using these, the social media, you're using this for infrastructure for your applications, you're using this for maybe you're outsourcing some things. So all of these aspects have their own security risks, and that needs to be quantified. And if you don't quantify them, there's no way for you to know, are you improving, are you actually fixing things and improving things as you go. So even your laptops that you're issuing to your employees, they are vulnerable. They can be vulnerable. Are you securing your disk? Have you installed a antivirus system on the laptops? Have you been patching your system, your operating system? Have you been patching that? All these type of things have to be done and have to be monitored as well. So do you know all of this about your own employees? So as part of your strategy and as part of your quantification, you need to say, okay, I have, let's say 30 employees, out of them 28 are secure, 2 are not secure, and I'm pushing them to make it more secure. So that's a quantifying, it's a very clear quantifiable, metric. There you can say, okay, 28 out of 30 are secure, the 2 are not. And again, the metrics of how are they secure? What is the different things that you're looking at? And those things have to keep improving and changing as well. It's not just one thing. So, that is an important part of how you think about risk in your company. So I mentioned this before, like part of your, especially security is a bigger issue for ops and dev team. It has to be and should be a lot more focus or more focus on this aspect, mainly because the apps that you're creating are going to be, usually where the attacks will happen. So if you think, so let's say you're building on an EC2 instance, then your EC2 instance becomes, a part of your attack that can be attacked through its IP address, through some kind of DNS names, through whatever, right? And then you need to make sure that the SSL aspect on each hop, it is not just on your top level. All aspects have to be secure. All the pieces in between that are actually the network hop is happening when someone asks for your web address, all those chain has to be secured as well. So coming back to the part of the process, embedding security testing or the security aspect as part of your CI/CD, which is continuous integration and continuous deployment, is very, very, very important. Not everyone does this, and not everyone does this effectively. So there are many ways of doing this. And as I said before, it is best that you should not have to remember to initiate it. It should be, let's say, a Docker image scan. Let's say in AWS, if you're pushing, there is a simple button that says, so configure it so that all your Docker repositories enable like scan enabled, like there's a feature. It will automatically scan as soon as you push a new version and tell you what vulnerabilities there are right away. So you're doing some due diligence automatically. That should happen. And then once that is there, it should not just linger there. Somebody has to pay attention to it. So that has to become part of your dashboard. And it has to be taken into account as part of your, okay, next version, maybe it's critical enough that you have to do right away, or, quick do a patch right away. Or if you think it is not critical enough, then it needs to be made part of your next cycle of deployments. So whatever that process is, that is really critical, and embedding that and becoming aware of that is very important. Code scanning, right? So I talked about static code scan before. You should automate this. There's an easy way to do webhooks. So any pipeline that you're using, any deployment pipelines that you're using, you can add webhooks. They're all advanced now. Nowadays, if you're using the new ones that are easy, even the old ones like Jenkins and things like that also have a lot of capabilities to initiate code scans internally, third party, all that stuff. So that is also very critical. Pen testing. So I would not recommend it doing every build, but I would definitely recommend doing it at UAT level. So if you look at your CI/CD, you have your dev, you have your UAT, and your prod. So you cannot be running pen testing on prod, obviously, because you don't want to interrupt and create issues for your users. So you should do it at the UAT level. Which should match how a production system should look like. So in production, you have disaster recovery, you have different kinds of things that you're doing to make sure that you have high scalability, have a high availability. So in order for you to kind of test it very similar to production, you need to have your UAT, which is very similar to production in terms of scale, in terms of availability, and all of that. So you need to be able to run against that penetration testing. And another thing that would be very helpful from a testing standpoint is creating some dummy data, which is similar to what you have in production. Because a lot of things don't get surfaced unless you have the right amount of data in it, that could also actually create those type of issues. So that, is something that you should plan on doing as well. UAT you should always try to make it similar to production. but you cannot have the production data in there. So you should anonymize it or create dummy data or however you want to do to make sure that it looks and feels very similar to a production environment. So that's the CI/CD side. So I talked about ChatGPT shortly, previously, but the machine learning and the AI tools nowadays that have progressed and where they are, it's actually also causing security risks because it's easy to find issues in your website because even a very low-level non-hacker can go and ask ChatGPT using, there's something called prompt hacking. Using prompt hacking, you can make it do whatever you want it to do because it will not stop and say, oh, this is against our ethics and against our coding, and we will stop. We will not tell you this information. But if you ask it the right way, it will tell you all the things that you need. So now, because of these kind of LLMs that are out there are ChatGPT is one, Bard, and there are so many now available and also freely available, which only means that people can do more sophisticated attacks on your systems very, very easily. So, but you can also use it against them, meaning if you adopt the right tools internally and make sure that you're able to find critical issues ahead of time, or there are predictive models that will tell you if an issue will happen in this part of your system, or this network is weak or whatever. So you can prioritize better because there are thousands of things to do. You cannot prioritize all thousands of things as a high priority or the highest priority. So in order for you to figure out which one to go after first, it is important that you use all kinds of methodologies, and AI has a great way of figuring out what is important because it uses a lot more variables. As humans, we're limited to using only so many variables, and also we are biased. It goes by data. We go by our own experiences, and our experiences are not as as many as the data that it can run on. So using those aspects of AI and machine learning to help in defending yourself and making sure that you take a predictive approach to identify areas and secure them ahead of time before something bad happens. And of course, the shift left approach involves like doing integrations and doing considerations for security at the design level or the development level, rather than post-development, ad operations. That becomes it's more cost for you to fix it later than earlier, right? So the debugging and the operations people have to spend their time. So all of those things add up, and that is definitely not very cost effective, and also especially for startups, not the best way to approach security. So again, ahead of time is always better. And then the conclusion to all this for me is that I think in general, software development is changing so rapidly, and it is so tempting to use a ChatGPT or a Bard to write code. Yes, it does 70-80% of your coding. It will have a lot of flaws. It is not meant to. You have to ask it the right way, like, please add exception handling, please add this and that. So you will not be able to do all of the things. So the important aspect is that you still need someone who's a smart expert, who understands security in your team, who's a developer or an architect, who's ensuring that testing and that critical thinking and from a security standpoint is being done as part of your software development. And given that people want to put things out very fast, and again, this will be the expectation now because of all these tools that are being available. They will expect you to be more productive very quickly, but that's a temptation. You should definitely use the tools. You should become more productive. But the fundamental idea of you putting the thought behind things and being critical and that is all still a human attribute that you should utilize. So now it is more important for developers and architects and anyone on the team, because the boring aspect of your job is going to be taken away, which is good. It's a good thing. So now you have to really critically think. And it is actually, in my opinion, a good thing. It is going to have some bad effects initially, but it's definitely a good thing that this is happening to us as, I think overall as a society and as a world, we are moving towards becoming more productive, which means that intellectually we should engage more rather than doing boring stuff, and try to ensure that we are facing the evolving threats and facing and also kind of embracing the productivity gains that we're getting from some of these advances that are happening. But yeah, it's an exciting world to be part of, and I am definitely excited to be part of the journey of what we're taking here as part of startups. I want to help out whoever wants it. I'm happy to again take any questions. Please email me at business@iCompaas.com or visit our website. And thanks for your attention. Thanks everyone, and open up for any Q&A.
Thank you so much, sir. It was, thank you for sharing a wealth of information and those recent trends. I hope all those participants would have got a lot of information on security testing and all those latest trends. So we are moving towards our question and answer session. So if anyone has some questions, the forum is open.
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi, sir. So I have one question.
Sure.
Yeah. Are there any legal or compliance consideration we should be aware of during the penetration testing?
Yes. So let's say if you're doing a penetration testing for someone, make sure you get a written consent. The consent is very important, because if you're doing it for yourself, that's fine, right? If you're testing your own systems, make sure that the right team is involved and they are aware that you're doing it. But let's say if you're doing it for your client, for your customer, you need a written consent that you're going to run penetration testing. There is something called a passive scan, which is less intrusive. It doesn't, actually try to take over anything. So that sometimes is done to let people know, hey, this is what's happening in your systems. It's kind of it's a gray area, but part of ethical hacking, you could say. But if you're going to do any kind of full penetration testing, it is very, very important that you get the consent from the company and the right decision maker, like the person who owns the platform, usually VP of engineering or the CTO, has to give consent to running penetration testing. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. And how frequently we should conduct penetration testing to maintain a robust security posture of an application?
A great question. That you should always do at UAT. So usually as part of your build process, right? So you're pushing things into production. So you have your dev testing that you're doing for functionality and making sure everything is good. On UAT, you're doing user acceptance testing. Maybe there are a lot of use cases that you're testing out. Maybe you're also doing some automation to test out different use cases for your product. Right there is a chance to do penetration testing as well. So every time you're deploying to production, so because you might be doing a lot more builds on dev, like you do a lot more work on dev before you get to UAT. So I would advise do it at the UAT side. Doesn't have to be at a dev point of view. At the point, it can become too cumbersome. Again, the point is that you want to make this a smooth part of your process, and that is not done just blindly. Done with a lot of thinking and really diligently. So UAT is a good point to do it. The number of times is all depends on how many times you're pushing to production. So just before you push to production, you run this, make sure, and you find something, you fix it, and then go through dev and UAT process again. Make sure that you run the penetration test to ensure that the fix is now showing up as a fix, meaning that vulnerability is no longer present. Then you can push it to production. So I would say it depends on how many times you're pushing to production, but it should be done at UAT every single time, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no
Like
worries.
to clear it, one more question, like how we can ensure that our penetration testing process does not cause any disruption or downtime to our systems.
And as I mentioned, if you run it on UAT, you will, even if there is something that happens bad, something bad that happens, you should be able to recover and you should be able to find the issue. So that's why I don't advise you to run it on production. But you should be doing some kind of passive scans on production, because production is its own system. It can have its own signatures, something different that might cause things to not work. And that's why I'm a big fan of infrastructure as code, right? So when you're building your infrastructure, to ensure that it's going to be basically the same, you should write basically code that will create your infrastructure at each of the environment. And then, as I mentioned before, you cannot have dev environment exactly same as production. So UAT is the right candidate to make it similar to production in terms of size, scale, and also the network configurations and all of that. But do it through IAC, which will ensure that if I test UAT, it should be as good as testing production. So, but the disruption part, it will, for UAT, it won't matter as much. I mean, it can matter depending on if there is some UAT user acceptance testing happening. It is possible that will, create some downtime there, but it is better to have that in UAT than in production. So I would say, yeah, I think it's an acceptable kind of an amount, only if you're doing it on UAT, not obviously in production.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Krishna.
Yeah, hi, I have one question.
Sure.
So, what are the things credential needs to be from the website end so that we can do the pen testing?
Could you repeat the last? Repeat the question again. Sorry.
Yeah, means I'm asking that what are the credential required to do the pen testing from the website end or client end?
Okay. So if you want to perform penetration testing, first of all, you need, as I said, you need permission, right? You need consent from the client or whatever the website. So if it's your own website, it doesn't matter. You can do. But if it is a client website or someone else that you don't know, you should definitely get consent. And from your credential standpoint, right? If you say credentials, I'm assuming what. So typically there are different certifications that you can do. 𝐒𝐸𝐤, Certified Ethical Hacking certification is available. There is Security Plus. There are a lot of different certifications that are at the base level. There are different levels of certifications for security. So 𝐒𝐸𝐤 is a good place to start. If you want to become a penetration tester, again, there are tools out there that you can learn on your own. Kali Linux provides a lot of that information. It's all open source. It's all free. You can go to a YouTube video and then find out everything you need to know about Kali Linux and how to use it and how to perform tests and different kinds of tests. But I would advise, if you want to get into this profession, get the Certified Ethical Hacking certification, and then join a security company. So we are always looking for good, talented people who want to become certified ethical hackers. You can join a team like ours, or there are many people looking for people who are talented and who can do good work on the testing side, on the security testing and penetration testing side. So that's how you approach that. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Because otherwise it'll become unethical. If you start doing penetration testing, it is basically you're a hacker now, and a bad kind of hacker, black hat hacker. There's a white hat and the black hat. So if you want to be a white hat hacker, meaning you want to get paid, right? At the end of the day, we are doing all these things. You want to make sure that you create value for someone, so they'll pay you for that. And for that, I think the best way to do is join a company who's doing this, or even if you want to start your own company, then getting the certifications are important, and making sure that you're getting a permission from the company is very important, so you can perform the tests and help them, be more secure, and then you also get paid. So yeah. Yes. Anyone else?
Hi, sir.
Yes. Hello.
Yes, sir. So, how you see the future of security testing?
Security testing. The future. So I'll tell you about generally cybersecurity. This field will require more people. There's a skill shortage. They call the skill shortage. Basically, not enough people have the right kind of skills for security, cybersecurity. It's a big topic. There are a lot of aspects to it. I didn't talk about email security. I didn't talk about SOC monitoring. There's something called the CM. There are a lot of aspects to cybersecurity that are very critical and also as a business very lucrative. So if you're in that business and if you're providing that service to someone, you can definitely earn a decent amount of money. So future for security testing, in my opinion, is very bright. So when I say security testing versus cybersecurity, they're not exactly two different things, but for me, security testing is part of your SDLC. So that's how I look at security testing. But cybersecurity in general, the tools and the strategies in that, those are just the realm of, so various companies do different pieces of it, and not everything is needed for all companies, things like that. As I mentioned before, compliance is something that we do, and we also do penetration testing and vulnerability assessment and do a bunch of services we offer, but we don't offer everything. We cannot offer everything because it is just too vast a subject. And to become specialized and good at something, you need to focus on some areas. And that's why security testing in general as part of your SDLC is going to become more important, and people who are good at it will definitely have a good career. And again, as I said, you can keep growing your knowledge and skill in a particular aspect of that, and then that will definitely benefit you for sure. So it has a bright future.
Anyone else?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
If someone wants to create a career in the security testing, what are the tools and skills must have they have?
So as I mentioned, there are several levels of this, and there is if you look at operations side, there is a field called security operations, SecOps. So there is DevOps and DevSecOps. So all of this, that has a certain skill set that you need for that, right? I mentioned ethical hacker, certified ethical hacker, right? So there, your job, you're probably part of a pen testing team or a part of a red team or a blue team in your company. And that can be a thing that you're doing, and you're learning skills for that. And there is something called a security analyst. And then if you keep going up, there is a title called Chief Information Security Officer. Typically, these people have done a lot of work in the security space over a period of time. They've gotten some credibility, and they have given tests like CISSP, CCSP, CISM, CCNA. There are a lot of different certifications that are at the highest level. So by the way, we have a offering called WannaPractice, wannapractice.com, where we help people who are already learning subjects like CISM or CCSP or CISSP. So these are all certifications. That's an exam prep tool that we have created along with a person called Ben Maliso. He's our partner. He's an educator. He's an amazing guy. He's very passionate about this, and he's a very community-oriented person. He helps people get certifications. He's very active in the community and educates people and helps people out. So he's an amazing guy. We are very, very proud of partnering with him, and we offer that as a practice exam. So you can learn certain topics. You can basically practice certain topics, or you can do a full exam, like it would be as if you're giving a real exam. So you can do that as well. So our app offers that. But coming back to your question, it's like there is a lot of these different levels. So if you look for it, I would say go to ChatGPT and ask levels of security certifications. It'll give you a lot of details. So basically, though, it all depends on where you are or what kind of work that you want to do. So if you're an ops person, if you're a developer, if you're an analyst type of a role, all these will have different kind of things that you can do. So I always advise people that you should play to your strengths and increase skill in that area rather than completely starting something new, because that way you're leveraging what you already know to like catapult you to the next level rather than feeling like that is a impediment to your growth. It should not. Whatever you're learning, I'm assuring you, it is going to help you get to the next level in whatever way you want. But you need to figure out what that is based on your profile and your interests. Then pursue that, because there are a lot of different levels of this certifications, and even like AWS and Google and all these people offer security professional certifications that you can take at different levels, from basic, intermediate to professional, that you can use to either get jobs or even just for your own knowledge to apply in your own company. So yeah.
JP, I wanted to just put some light on cybersecurity being just a cost center, right?
Right.
Could you talk more about how we could use cybersecurity as maybe leverage to get in something else,
Sure.
customers?
Yeah, definitely. So what typically people think that, okay, I need to buy a tool to do security, so I'm spending money, right? In my opinion, that is a false conception. So it's definitely, yes, you do have to pay for the tool, right? So if you're getting some kind of security for a tool, you pay for it. But what we have seen ourselves, again, this is out of our own experience, we have actually turned compliance and security as a strength, not a cost center, because we were able to win our clients, more customers, because the customers, again, it's a B2B client. So that client, they needed these people to be secure, but they didn't know how to, because they're mostly business people who have this app, or they have built a business on the technology side, but they don't understand the security side of things because it's too in-depth. So we became their security, basically office or as a service, meaning, so we are their CISO office. So any security questionnaire comes, or any call that they want to understand more about the security practices in place and tools in place, we were able to go and actually give them details, and that helped them win business, like win big contracts. And where we believe, again, we're also offering cost recommendations. So our tool actually offers cost recommendations as well to help you reduce the amount of cost that you have on your AWS or your Azure, cloud. They are not going to tell you, go and stop this server because it's costing you money, you're not using it. We will tell you that, So at the end of the day, I believe cybersecurity can be used to be more productive. You can use to actually get more business, and not just thought of as a cost center or somewhere you're just paying a tool and you're getting some, yes, you're getting cybersecurity out of it, but that's all you're getting. But I believe that there's a bigger way you can actually use it as a differentiator, even against your competitors, right? At the end of the day, I want all companies to be secure. That is my mission. Like our mission at iCompaas is we want to help companies don't do stupid things. There are a lot of base level things that they can do to improve and become much more secure. And I'm seeing like it's just a lack of education in security side. So again, that's where we want to help bridge that gap, and also help you get more sales. So if you are happy, you get more sales, then you will definitely, they incentivizes you to be more secure. And that's how we believe we can all, benefit from this. So yeah. Any other question, guys?
Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, JP. This is Hari.
Hello, Hari.
Yeah. Recently, I came through a thought that is, using security tool to scan automation scripts. So, will this add value to my process? Using security tools to scan automation scripts.
Automation scripts. Yes. So the static code scan thing that I said, right? So your automation script depends on what you're doing with this automation script. So typically, the code that you're scanning is something that's becoming part of an app. That app is being used by an end consumer, right? So your automation script you're using internally, you're not exposing it to any customer.
Yes.
If that is the case, then running it against that might not be that useful.
Okay.
So what will definitely be useful is anything that is client facing, then you should definitely run. So that code, you should try to what they call sanitize and secure. So you want to make sure there are a lot of things to that sanitization is like basically anything that is coming into the app, you should make sure that it is your some special characters are not present where they should not and all that. You need to sanitize all that because that way people cannot run SQL injection attacks or all sorts of other things, even injecting their own code or whatever. So they should not be able to do all that. So that's why you will parse out or like sanitize your code. But if you're talking about your automation scripts internal, you're not exposing it. But if it is going to be exposed to someone else, if someone else is going to use it, right? Maybe it'll make sense. But generally, I don't see much value doing it that is not exposed to a client or someone else. Typically that's not needed as much. But I mean, you might be surprised. Who knows? You should run it and see. There are a lot of free tools. It might be very useful. Yeah.
We can give it a
Try. Always try. I would always advise people to try things out because, these are best practices I'm talking about, not always. I mean, this is a very interesting case that you just brought up. I have no idea. My sense is telling me that it might not be useful, but it doesn't hurt to try for sure. Yeah.
Yes. And another question is regarding complaints. So, do AIs have any regulatory complaints? It is booming right now, right? So, do we have already complaints set up for AI applications?
AA, what does that mean? So
AI applications.
Can you elaborate? What does that mean?
So, suppose for a healthcare insurance app.
Oh, okay. Sure. So the healthcare side, if you're going to sell to US customers, you need to be HIPAA compliant. HIPAA. It is very critical. That's actually a very important because compliance is written in a way to help steer you in the right direction. It's a law, right? Or standard that are not going to keep up with all the things that are happening so dynamically in this world, right? It is only a spirit. It's almost, you look at it as a guidance. You don't look at it as a final, exactly all you need to do. That is only telling you, hey, how to approach this. So why is HIPAA a standard that you should care about? Is because they are trying to ensure your healthcare data is secured in a way that cannot be misused by people. That cannot be, even if something bad happens, you're containing the problem. So, so that's why I think it's definitely useful. So no matter, even if you're not selling in US, right? So people in India are also important, correct? So
right.
What they're telling about is they care about and they want to secure their healthcare data. Doesn't mean that those don't apply to us. They apply to us as well because it's the same data we're also generating, right, for people in India. And I believe, and eventually those ideas will come here as well. There is a Privacy Act. There is a Privacy Data Protection Act that is coming in India as well. It's covers a lot of different things, but it's actually the blueprint of it is coming from GDPR. So we want to take good ideas from outside and adopt for India as well. Same like UPI is a really good idea from India that is being exported to other countries, right? So I think that goes both ways. I think it's important that we take some idea, don't have to exactly do everything, but figure out what makes sense to us and then adopt those things. So definitely recommend running compliances for your own, for a data, even if it is US or India, data. I would say running it, that definitely helps you be in a better state in terms of how you're structuring it and how you're securing it and all that. Yeah.
So for healthcare related applications, we use it to align with the HIPAA compliance. Similarly, for a person who is building AI related applications, do he need to comply with any regulation, any country created regulation for?
Yeah, they're talking about it. There are a lot of, actually, that is very interesting, funny, because I spoke to a government person in India, like Indian government person. This was right after the Delhi. So there was a Convergence India conference in Delhi. So
Yes.
you guys were there too. So there was someone from the government who came, and then I had a follow-up chat with that person. So I brought up, and that has been actually talked about a lot. And this is not my ideas, by the way, like this thing I'm going to talk about. So for AI, there are two main issues. So AIs that are being built, the data that is being fed, typically there is a bias that is built into it. So there's this called a bias problem.
Yes.
So a bias problem is not very easy to fix, and it can be fixed by adding more data from all diverse groups and diverse aspects. Then you'll have a better model, right? So there is a bias problem, and there is another problem called alignment problem. So alignment problem is very different. So bias problem is giving you results that are not desirable for certain segment of population. It will be bad for them. That's called a bias problem.
Yeah.
And then there is an alignment problem. So if, let's say, the AI becomes, this is a little bit into science fiction, maybe not, who knows, that might happen very quickly, is if AI becomes conscious or becomes is AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. So if something like that comes into existence, if it thinks that humans are not needed for it to survive, if that comes into its processor or mind, then it could eliminate human beings, right? Or it could cause harm to human beings. That is called an alignment problem. So you want to always align it so that it will never think that humans are a problem, right? So that way, it will never try to harm us. But that is not very easy to do either. So there are people thinking about how would you even do that? And we are racing towards building all these AI tools that are sophisticated. But if it goes out of hand, then it is easily, you can create an alignment problem, or a bias problem is already there. But alignment problem, that could happen. If that happens, that is really bad for humanity in general, not just like segments of population, it's for everyone. It'll be bad. So that's, I mean, those are problems that are being, they're trying to work out. But yeah, that's kind of what it is.
Okay. So, like as of now, there is no, regulatory body for AI, right?
No, there are no, but it's being worked on. So that is being worked on right now, and a lot of people are figuring out how would this even go. So there is one proposal that says that you should not let people interact with it until some kind of assessment has been done. So it's he was comparing it to a virus or something that you're creating in a lab. You don't expose it to everyone, or let's say even if it's a vaccine, let's say, right? So you don't expose it to everyone, but you first do testing. There is a limited amount of testing and regulation for it. So he's talking about a similar process for AI tools as well, because once it gets into people's hands, you can do a lot of things, and that could mutate, and it could do a lot of.
Yeah.
So that's why there is nothing yet. People are going to come up with very, very soon. I think US is going to come up with, I'm sure Europe is going to come up with, and I'm sure even India probably is going to look into that. As I said, I already spoken to someone about this. It's going to go through its process, but again, I'm sure there are multiple people thinking about it. It's not just those people. So yeah, I would say something is going to come, but there is nothing in place right now. There's no regulation right now.
Yeah. Got it.
Cool. I am out of time, so I do need to drop off right now, but it was great to talk to everyone. Thanks for participating, and thanks for your attention and this great conversation.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth.
For the full MOHS10 Technologies.
Yeah.
I would like to extend our deepest gratitude for delivering an exceptional topic. Thank you so much, sir, and we would love to be connected with you further. And we are looking forward for many such events with you.
For sure. Yeah. Great to be here. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks, MOHS10 team, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir.